to nonprofit work. So that's what I would like to talk about today. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you would like to see more videos like this, or you would like to stay connected, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, tap the notification bell, tap the notification bell. And yeah, or you don't have to. If you don't want to, then don't do that. But just have to throw it out there every now and again. So I hope you're all doing really well. And let's just jump right into the story time, because as you know, I'm quite the rambler. And I can talk a lot, so it's probably for the best that I just get started right away. So there are really 3 main experiences that I would like to talk about in this video. The first is working at a theme park, specifically the entertainment department of that theme park, and the types of things I did there. And then I want to talk about my experience working for a major entertainment company. I'm not going to say the name of that company because not all of my experiences that I will be sharing are positive, but you will probably be able to infer as I talk about it. You'll probably have some idea of where this place is. And then finally, I want to talk about an interview that I had with a major record label. So let's start with the theme park, because we're going to go in chronological order. Chronological order. And I started this job when I was 16. One of the first jobs I ever had. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into at all. I just needed some money, and I thought it would be a fun summer job working at a theme park. I didn't realize how much would go into working for an entertainment department. So there was a steep learning curve for me. I never did theater or anything like that in high school. Sorry if you can hear some background noise. It's midday, that's why the lighting is so good and my skin looks so nice. It's midday, so there's going to be midday noises. But there was quite a steep learning curve because I didn't have experience, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I ended up really loving this job, and it was a really great experience for me. I worked within this department for a few years, a few summers, and then I ended up switching over to the marketing and PR department and helping with events and stuff. But let's talk more about what I did in the actual entertainment department. My very first role, because I started in September, was working our Halloween functions. So I was technically hired as a monster. And this is where my love for Halloween and all things spooky comes into play. I was never such a big Halloween buff as I was when I first started this job. So I really, this job really made me very excited for the month of October. But so that was my first job, or my first role within that job was being a monster and performing as different characters in different locations, different sets. And it was a really, really, really fun way to spend my fall. How it would work is I would show up, I would check out the call list and see where I was located and what my character was for that night. And I would go to the makeup chair. I would let them know what kind of look I wanted based on the character that I was playing. And they would do my crazy with my hair. And for instance, if I was, let's just say I was playing a scarecrow, they would put like hay in my hair. They would put hay in my hair. They would put hay in my hair and give me lots of like hairspray. Sometimes they would put latex, like a latex from my skin into my hair and like really make it crazy. It was always a nightmare going home and cleaning up, but sometimes they would add some different colors to my hair. And then the makeup obviously would be makeup. They would use different types of like, not actual spray paints and stuff that was okay for your skin, but like different colors on your face and different types of paints and lots of latex. There was always latex for like the cuts, the wounds that you had on your face to make you look scary, add blood and stuff, whatever. So that was really cool. And then we would go to our set location, and there were different locations all throughout the park where you could be like a part of this like haunted trail or house or setup, whatever your location was. And then you would pick out an outfit. There was like a whole wardrobe where you could pick out what you wanted to wear that night. And then from there you would sort of rehearse. If you were in a location with other people, you would figure out what your dynamic was, what you wanted to do that night, who would do what, just basically go through the run of show. Or if you were by yourself, you would just practice your lines. There was always suggested lines, but most of it was improv, and you could just do whatever you wanted and test out different ideas depending on who would come and walk through and who you would scare. And so it was a lot of fun. And right before you would go out, you would do group exercises and warm-ups. You would do vocal warm-ups and like physical stretches because, you know, you'd be out on your feet or running around doing crazy things all night. So it was important that you were limber and ready to go. Especially if you were a roamer, then you would have, you'd be bouncing back and forth from multiple locations, multiple parts of the night. So that was a lot of fun. And in the summertime, I did lots of different types of performances. I was a dancer, and I would dance in probably 5 shows per day. And each show was about 45 minutes because it would be a 30-minute show, and then you'd have like 15 minutes of meet and greets after. And these shows were obviously geared towards children. So I was a part of, I think, 3 or 4 different types of shows over the course of the few summers that I worked there. And it was so much fun. We would go through these like intensives, these rehearsals where we would train for, I don't know, a month, maybe a month or so. And we would have a choreographer go over everything with us. She would show us the dance routines. We would rehearse our lines. We didn't speak, but we had to know our lines to like vocalize, and not vocalize, but like get into it non-verbally. So we would spend a lot of time doing that, and all of our rehearsals were paid, so that was nice. And then we would do the shows. So a day in the life of doing a show like that is you would show up to work, you would already know what you were assigned as. You would go to your dressing room and meet up with the rest of your crew that you would be doing the show with. Generally, our shows had like 5 to 6 other performers. So we were all good friends because we would all do these shows together all the time. And so that was always a lot of fun. And we had our designated roles, right? Like I always performed as a certain role, and so did everybody else. Because it depended on like your height and your weight and what you were trained to do. So there were certain roles that I would always play. So we would spend most of our days in the dressing rooms and hang out between shows. We would do a show, come back in, chill out for a bit. We'd usually have like 30 or so minutes to cool down, relax, and then get ready to go out for the next show. Because like I said, there were 5 shows a day, 4 of which we would do on our designated stage, and 1 of which we would do with other performers in the department. Oh, sorry, I have an itchy eye. And that was like a joint show that we would do midday, and that was for the entire park. That was a park-wide performance. And that was a different show, different dance routine, different script, different everything. So it was cool. It was really a lot of fun. And I was always in great shape because I spent all day dancing. We'd have like 8-hour shifts, and we would literally just go out and dance. And it was like summer, so it was hot. We were always sweating, but we would wear like ice packs underneath our costumes and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. And I also was trained to be a drummer. Yes, I was trained to be a drummer. I was trained to be a drummer, and my stage name was Bonsai Betty. Bonsai Betty. And we mostly drummed on random objects. We all had large trash cans. Those were our technical drums. But then we also had buckets and triangles and other weird things that we would find throughout the park. And when I was working a drum shift, I would also do 5 shows per day. Same thing, about 30 minutes per show, throughout different parts of the park. We would do those in the water park too. Not just the theme park, also the water park. So, that also took a lot out of me. But there were also different types of shifts you could do. Generally, I was on the rotation of doing the stage shows. So I would do, like I said, 5 shows per day, or I would be drumming 5 shows per day. On the off chance where I was not a main performer and I was scheduled as a morning or a night shift, I would only do a few shows per day. And a lot of it, I'd be going out to do meet and greets as my character. I'm keeping this very general and broad because for licensing purposes and things, I'm not really allowed to say specific characters and roles that I played, because I could get into trouble for that. So I'm keeping it very broad on purpose. But yes, I would go out and do meet and greets for kids and families as certain characters, and then I would do a few shows. I would either do a morning show and an afternoon show, or an afternoon show and a night show. And the night show was always my favorite because it involved a DJ and lots of loud music and flashing lights and games, and it was so much fun. We'd do limbo, and at the time I was there, we would do the cha-cha slide, the Harlem Shake, dances like that. I also did a show as just my own character. There was no one else performing in the show, and I think I did that one 3 or 4 times per day. It's been such a while now, but yeah, that show was an hour, so I think I only did 3 or 4 of those a day because it was longer, and it was just me. I was the only character. It was my own dance party as that character. And oh my god, it was so much fun. I just can't stop smiling thinking about it. I loved that job so much. Yeah, and I worked really hard at it, and I was always rehearsing and always trying to be the best that I could be. Like I said, I had no experience in this stuff, but I just really got into it and wanted to do well, so I was always put on the main rotations. I would be the designated character, I wasn't an understudy. I wasn't a fill-in. I was like constantly doing the shows. So you're probably thinking, why don't you do that now? Or what happened? Why did you only do it for a few years? Well, I'll tell you. These shows that I was doing, they were very intensive on my body. And I've always had bad knees. They would, as a kid and as a teen, my kneecaps would dislocate out of nowhere. They would literally just pop out and pop back in. I would lose my balance. I would fall over and I wouldn't be able to walk for a while. Or they would keep popping out. It's honestly terrible. I saw a doctor about it once, and I was supposed to start physical therapy, and he basically told me that I was built like a dog because of the way my knees and hips are structured. Like, I don't know, it was very rude, and I didn't like hearing that as a teen girl. But anyway, so I've always had problems with my knees, and certain things that put more pressure on my knees make them worse, right? So I was doing these really intensive performances 5 times per day, every day. I would work probably 5 to 6 times a day, sometimes 5 to 6 times a week. Sometimes I would work every day because I would pick up shifts because I loved the work. I didn't want days off. Like, that was such a fun way to spend my day and make money. So I worked as much as I humanly could, and I was always picking up shifts. But the dances were, like I said, very intensive on my body. It required like a lot of jumping and stomping and kicking and just high intensity movement for long periods of time. So obviously that affected my knees in a very negative way, to the point where I would be doing performances or even just out doing meet and greets, and my knees would give out and I would fall over, and that was dangerous for me, obviously. Very dangerous to be in that situation, and not good. No small child wants to see that happen. They don't want to watch anybody get hurt. So basically I had to go to like the on-site ENT and get evaluated, and they put me on work restriction, which meant I couldn't perform anymore until I got a doctor's note saying that my condition improved. And when I found that out, I cried in the dressing room. I sobbed in front of all of my supervisors. I was so sad. And it's like I knew it was coming, and I knew that I couldn't keep doing it because my knees were giving out and I was doing too much on my body. But oh my god, it was just so heartbreaking because I loved it so much. And so after I was put on work restriction, I could only do limited things. I couldn't go out and dance. I couldn't really perform. I would be like a character escort. I would like walk people around for their meet and greets, and I would help with other things, and I could still drum, but it wasn't the same, and I didn't get as much enjoyment out of it after that. So I ended up moving over to the marketing and press department. That's ultimately what I was going to get my degree in anyway when I went to college, so I figured that was the more practical choice anyway, and I did enjoy it, but there's just nothing like performing. I miss it every day, and I do want to get back into it. So I don't know, maybe that means joining a community theater or something, or even just taking some dance classes to get back into it in a less intensive way, or taking some singing classes or something. I don't know, but I miss it so much, you guys. You have no idea. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I could have stayed in that performance space and like evolved my skills in that way. But it was always going to just be a summer job. It's not like the pay was great. It's not like there were good benefits. There were really no benefits. I knew it wasn't a forever job, but I wish it could have been longer than it was. And I do miss it, and I wish that could have been a viable career option for me. But it wasn't. So, was friends with like everybody I worked with because we were all kind of the same breed of people. And I mean, I guess kind of cultish in a way because we loved the work, we loved each other, and on our days off or when we got off our shifts, we would go back into the park and see our other friends perform and go watch the shows and spend time with our friends and our coworkers and supervisors. Like, that's all we did. We would spend all of our time at the park. We were like a big family, and oh my gosh, it's just some of the best memories I have from my whole entire life came from that job. At such like a formative time of my life too. It was like right after my dad had died, and I was struggling a lot, and having that kind of connection, it really saved me in a lot of ways. I just every day was doing something I loved with people I loved, and I was growing and developing into a more confident person, a better version of myself. Not caring what people would think of me. I would just go out and dance and have fun, and it was just such an incredible environment to be in and to be a part of. So I do miss it. I think I've made that clear. So yeah, I could go on and on and on forever about that job, but those are some of the highlights, and if you want to know more, you can let me know. Let me know in the comments, because I feel like I kind of just gave a broad overview, but yeah, all in all, some of the best people I ever met, I met from that job. My first real relationship came from that job. It was another cast member, another performer. My love for Halloween came from that job, and being confident as someone who could just go out and have fun and enjoy my life and not care what people thought of me, that came from that job. And I'm still in touch with a lot of the people that I worked with then. I am 26, almost 27 now. I started that job when I was 16, and I'm still in touch with quite a few people from there. So, really special. And then, like I said, I transferred over to the marketing and press department and got to help with different events. And that was pretty cool. But not too much to say about that. We did see some celebrities that came in, got to work on different musical performances. I got to do this like new series we had where I would go out and MC and play games with people and give away prizes, and I don't know, that was a lot of fun. I love just being on a microphone all day and just talking into the wild, like anyone who would listen. Try to get them involved with what I was doing at the time. And we do different like events for new rides that were coming out, and so it was a cool job. But like I said, nothing compares to the performance aspect, but it was still a lot of fun. 4th of July was always a huge time of year for us. We would do like Zumba and all these fun little activities throughout the park, and there would be food and music and fireworks, so it was great to coordinate all of that. I made some really good friends in that department too, so it was good. And then anyways, enough about that first experience. Moving on to when I was in college, I started interning for, like I said, a large entertainment company. You definitely know of it. Everybody knows of it. It started out as an internship. I interned there for 2 semesters, and then I was hired on as a freelancer, which was very common for this place. Like, most people would freelance for a very long time, because when you get hired full-time, you know, you are deserving of like benefits and salary and whatnot, and as a freelancer, there's like lots of loopholes, so you don't like receive the same benefits and whatever. So you get hired on as a freelancer, and most of the people I knew were working as freelancers. And at this job, I was a press coordinator. And I did so many things at that job. musicians, up-and-coming actors and actresses, everything really. But for the most part, these were like B and C level celebrities. So they were up-and-coming, or they were people that, not everyone had heard of. Not always. I did work events that included like Will Smith, Queen Latifah, kind of celebrities along those lines, like that stature. But then I also worked with celebrities that you might not necessarily be able to pick out, from across the street. You'd be like, oh, they kind of look familiar. Who is that person? Kind of thing. Yeah, so definitely one of my favorite events was working for a musical performance, and that's where I got to meet Osier, whose real name is Andrew, but he's literally one of the nicest guys in the world. He's so nice. And I got to be with him during sound check when this entire space was empty, where he was performing, and he did a dry run of Take Me to Church, and it literally made me cry. It made me cry. His voice was so beautiful. And this was before he was really popular. Like, this song was not on the radio yet. And the way his voice filled up a room, it just made me so emotional. He's so beyond talented. So that was a highlight for me as someone who loves music as much as I do. Another highlight for me was getting to meet Stephen Colbert, because I would do press tours with celebrities all the time, and we would commonly do runs on late night shows or any kind of show really. But Stephen Colbert was always my favorite. We also would do The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, stuff like that. And I got to shake Stephen Colbert's hand and talk to him, and I always loved watching his show, so that was like a dream come true. And some of the celebrities that I would hang around with were super nice, because I would have to go with them from place to place all day, and these press tours could go on, 12 hours per day, and sometimes they'd be multiple days. So it was nice when they were kind, but I'll be honest, most of the time the celebrities I worked with were not very kind. Very entitled, very pretentious, and I always find that it would be the B and C level celebrities, B and C list celebrities, that would have astronomical egos, and the larger scale celebrities were kind and caring, and they understood what it meant to be in my position. When I was in charge of coordinating all of this and getting them food and getting them from place to place and all of this stuff, it's a lot of work. And so, when you're not treated well, it really drags you down. So there were really a lot of cool parts of that job. I was always at the late night parties and getting these crazy expensive meals with these celebrities, and money was no object for this company, right? So everywhere we would go, we would take a black car service. We would get into, like I said, every party. We would be hosting all of these parties most of the time. We were always drinking and having great food, and it's as much work as we would put in, we would have a lot of fun too, you know what I mean? So it had its perks for sure, but I did start to notice that in a lot of ways the job lacked meaning for me. I was dealing with a lot of really difficult people, not just not just the talent that would come in, but also, the people I worked with. I had a really rough boss for a while. She was higher up, and She was pretty toxic to work with. She made me cry all the time. Literally all the time. And I would have so much anxiety being around her. She literally threw a granola bar at my head once because it wasn't the flavor she wanted. I had gone to multiple locations to get her this granola bar, and they did not have the flavor she wanted anywhere. So I got the next best thing. I gave it to her, I explained. She got so furious with me, she literally whipped it at me, at my head. But she did crazy stuff to everybody. She was always screaming at everybody, throwing things, breaking things. Very, very toxic environment when she was there. And that's when I was like, okay, I cannot stay here. This is not good for my mental health. And besides, I had been feeling sort of this lack of purpose. The talent that I was working with was kind of, for the most part. I worked with some really incredible people too. But the shows and the movies and the projects I was working on, I was not necessarily passionate about. So it's hard when you're doing press and you're promoting and you're writing and you're pitching. When you're not deeply connected to the content, it can be a little hard. When you're doing that day to day, all day, every day, and then you're working with people who are difficult and are stressing you out and your mental health is taking a hit. The entertainment industry is definitely for a certain breed of people. And I just don't think I had it in me. I think I could have stayed with that company for a very long time had I wanted to put myself through all of that. But at the end of the day, I decided it wasn't worth it. As much as I did enjoy a lot of aspects of the entertainment industry, I wasn't feeling good. My gut was telling me that this is not the right choice for me in the long run. So it was a bittersweet decision. It was a hard decision. But I decided ultimately that I couldn't stay in it. I had to find something else. Especially because I didn't like that I didn't feel a sense of purpose, and I didn't really like who it was making me. I don't know, because it's also surface level when you think about it. Yes, the fancy cars, the expensive dinners, the people that you're hanging out with. It was a very glamorous job, and all of my friends and family were so impressed, and they thought I was the coolest person alive. But it developed this need of external validation or something. It's I didn't like what it was doing to my head. And I just didn't like that that's the energy I was putting out. I think you can kind of catch my drift. I don't really know how else to explain it, but it just didn't feel like it was me at my core. It all felt shallow at the end of the day. You know what I mean? What am I doing to change the world? I'm just working these parties, and I don't know. So anyways, I got out of that and wanted to try something different. So I thought, okay, I love music. I'm passionate about music. Maybe I try to work for a label that has music that I'm interested in. Because music, in a lot of ways, has saved me, and maybe that could be something that would fill me with purpose. I could feel good about that kind of work, but I didn't know a lot about record labels. I worked with music in that previous position at that other company, but it's very different from an actual dedicated label. So I ended up getting an interview at a very popular record label. Again, I'm not going to say the name, but you've heard of it, I'm sure. And there were a lot of really good artists that I loved, but during the sort of preliminary interview, oh my gosh, right off the bat, I got such a pretentious energy, which I felt was something I was trying to get away from. But still, I wanted to give it a try. So I didn't like that they were not valuing my time at all because I had moved my whole schedule around. Took the train into the city. Whatever. It was a whole thing. And while I was waiting in the lobby, I saw at least three or four different interns coming in, rushing, carrying stacks and stacks of coffee and food, and clearly just running errands for their supervisors. And you could just see how stressed out and anxious they were. And that was another big red flag, because where I had worked before, I had done my fair share of all of that. Luckily, I had gotten out of it in many ways, the longer I stayed and the more I grew into the company, but it's so off-putting to me, especially having been someone in that position, to be just someone's, runner for things. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't make you feel good at all. Especially if these positions are unpaid. I was very lucky that my position was paid, but most college students do this for credit. So they're putting in a lot of emotional labor and they're getting a few college credits for it. It's terrible. But I'm not going to get into that right now. So I got a really, really bad vibe just by being in that space. My gut was telling me to get out. So, sorry, I think someone's playing music right now. I'm going to try to wrap this up. I don't know what the hell that is. My neighbors are so loud sometimes. But, finally, I was brought in for the interview and we did not click at all. Again, there was a very pretentious energy, just did not care about, my time, did not value my time or my energy. And I decided that that was not the right fit for me. And as much as I loved music, I just couldn't see myself in that space at all. And that's tough because as much as I love entertainment in so many ways, it was just so evident that I was not built for it. And so I decided that I could love these things from afar and not make them my job, not make them my entire career path, because I would just be miserable and I would probably end up hating the thing that I love the most. So that's what made me switch over to nonprofit, as far away from entertainment as I could physically get. And now, today, that's what I'm doing. I'm still in a nonprofit organization, working with people who are genuine and caring and compassionate, who value my time and my energy. And no, I do not go to fancy parties anymore. I don't eat expensive dishes at exclusive restaurants in Manhattan. I don't take black cars to and from whatever event is going on that night. I'm not hanging out with celebrities anymore, but I am doing work that fills me with purpose, that has meaning, that makes a difference, that makes me feel good. And I feel like it's just a much better fit for me. And I'm with people who are like-minded and a lot more like me. So I do wonder sometimes what would happen if I stayed in that career trajectory. I do wonder that, but I think ultimately I made the right decision. I really do. And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish that, that industry wasn't as toxic as it is, or was in my experience anyway. But I don't think anybody should be in a situation where they're feeling undervalued, disrespected, treated like a caddy, or like someone who is expendable or disposable, or is, I don't think you should be making people cry at work. I think you should be kind and generous and compassionate, and you should know that you matter and that you're worthy, and that the work that you do, it's not necessarily, brains made to feel like you just like gave away the code to a nuclear bomb or something. Like, I feel like whenever I made a mistake working in those entertainment jobs, it was like the end of the world. Suddenly, I had made the most fatal error imaginable, when that was not the case at all. Now, in my current job, we make mistakes all the time, and we're all just like, we'll get them next time, because we're kind to ourselves, and we understand that we're human beings, and that mistakes happen, and people will understand. And if they don't understand, it is what it is. It already happened. It's done. You do your best. You try your best. You put your best foot forward. You make a difference in the world, and that's all you can do. So it's a much better energy for me. A much better energy for me. And we'll see what happens in the future. I imagine I will stay in this type of work. But I think, again, like I said, I would like to get back into dancing and singing and performing in some capacity. Not as my job, but as a hobby, a side project, something for fun. If you guys have any suggestions or recommendations for how I can do that, please let me know. I live in the city, in the Brooklyn area. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Once it's safe, obviously, I'm sure because of COVID, things are still, a little funky. But anyways, that is my experience working with entertainment. I did a lot of one-offs too. Like, I would work entertainment events for like related companies. Again, I'm not gonna say names, but it's like if you work at one, you kind of are aware of all the other ones, especially if they're under the same entertainment umbrella. So there's lots of opportunities for you to work events with different people under different brands, we'll say. So really a lot of cool experiences. But again, I think at the end of the day, kind of surface level. And a lot of work, very taxing. Definitely better to do when you're young, I think. That's not to say that if that's something you're really passionate about, that you shouldn't go for it. Do what you love. Fight for what you love. But care about yourself too. Value your time, your energy, your mental and physical health. That job made my mental and physical health deteriorate very quickly. It was not for me. That's not the case for everybody. There are still people that I know working in those same jobs. Okay, so I don't mean to deter anybody from doing what they love. If you are destined to do something, you will do it and you will make it work and you'll do a great job. I'm just speaking specifically from my own experiences. My own crazy, chaotic experiences. Everyone's will be different. So take it all with a grain of salt. But anyways, I think I've rambled long enough about all of this. But I hope you've enjoyed nonetheless. Again, let me know if you have any follow-up questions in the comments. I feel like I kind of skimmed over a lot, but I'd be talking here for hours if I really got into the nitty-gritty of everything. Plus, again, there are certain things I just can't say. Because God forbid the wrong person finds this video and I get sued.